So when we talk about why VDI,
The grand, I guess, scheme of things, my answer for why you even think about changing your desktop strategy at all is, does this strategy have the ability to increase productivity?
For us, it was much easier. It was India offshoring was our first delve in. We had 30 days to get something up. Obviously, we're not going to ship a lot of PCs over there. And then we've kind of, with our environment, we have very harsh coal-fired plants. So we started targeting those locations. We have hundreds of people at a power plant that aren't really traditional PC users, but still need certain internal access, HR, time reporting, those kind of things. So we're not all in for our knowledge-based users or engineer people. We're very much niche on it, and I think that's probably going to be the case for a while. There'll be certain aspects across the board that we'll do VDI, and still we'll have to have a large percentage of PCs and laptops for our roaming trucks and things like that, where it's not going to be a good fit for us.
So there are significant security merits in terms of virtualizing desktops because all the information is sitting in one place. The challenge becomes, now I have to protect it differently. The good news in my mind is that everything is in one place, and it's easier to protect information in one place versus 10 or 20 or 30,000 different places. I think of security breaches as being really similar to recalls in the auto industry. So if you think of quality in manufacturing, and a car rolls off the assembly line, you don't say, let's add quality now, right? And it's kind of tough to do. It's a fundamental part of the manufacturing process. And if you don't have the right level of quality, you tend to get defects, and if the defects are severe enough, then you start having recalls.
I think in the desktop space, there's new math, I think, that needs to be developed because it's really hard to quantify productivity. I mean, my example is this. It's like, if something I do, don't even pretend it's not even VDI for a second, but if there's some new technology I can bring into my organization that makes $1 million loan originator 1% more productive, 1%, and that's $10,000 to the bottom line of my organization. I think you really need to look at what strategic reason am I even thinking about virtualizing desktops or application, and now cloud and cloud strategy is kind of come into the conversation. And I think it's different for every company.
The question is, what we did VDI across to India. Yeah, we actually did it with custom scripts with ZenApp, doing a terminal RDP? Just RDP section? Well, RDP from the Citrix server to the XP image and then ICA across. So this was 3 to 4 years ago before.
Well, the virtual machine is just a file, so why wouldn't I cache at least the core part of the image proximally located where the users are? I think that kind of the next evolution of the technology is, and I'll just throw a bunch of stuff out here so we can maybe talk about it, which is client hypervisors, because I've got to be able to take care of mobile users that are not always connected to a network. The second thing is I think that just the laws of distances, that if you're going to locate an image in applications and house and serve them up from locations here in Ohio, it's a long way, it's a long haul to go over to India.
and it is, when we talk about VDI, we're not necessarily talking about a single technology, and I think Scott alluded to that a little bit. So for the next question, it's going to be posed to you, Scott. Would you like to talk a little bit about all the different technologies that you have examined as you've gone through your VDI journey? So for example, we're talking about things like Citrix, right? Measuring, ZenApp, we're going nowadays, or parallels, or straight up hypervisor, usage, et cetera, et cetera.
As we move forward to VDI, we sort of wanted to do something very different than what we've been doing for Citrix for 10 years. We didn't just take what they've been doing, especially early on, because they were just doing the IP wrapped around RDP. So we looked at that, we looked at different technologies, but at the same time, we're struggling with the complexity of what the next generation of the desktop is going to look like. We've looked at RingQ for the separation of layers. We've looked at, obviously, the new benefits we've gotten out of ZenApp. We have relationships, semantics. I think what our major problem is application containment. We roughly grow, because we do not do managed workstations per se, it is truly a personal computer, and IT is not a strong organization. We're supporting the business units of generation, transmission, and distribution. We've got to give them admin rights. And a lot of those things, we don't have the ability to contain those applications. We grow at 20 applications a week, just because people can download whatever they want and install it, and now it's in our environment to manage. So we've got a lot of internal problems that have to be addressed. We're an application container. The VDI can continue to give us some benefits, but not have the resources and the money to take the next step and get application containment taken care of.
So when I think about pilots or proofs of concepts or takeoffs or limited production environments, it's like I think about the process that you can go through that's maybe similar to the early times or the early days of server virtualization, which is to go through that kind of planner, assessment, and sizing, scaling conversation. I mean, I think most of the technology is at least mature enough now that it's going to boot an XP image or boot a Windows 7 image, and it's going to generally work. But will it work for 600, not users, but your users, or 1,000 your users?
We would do contractors for our station projects or whatever. We knew what those applications are. So we had business units that can provide us an SME with an application that those contractors are going to do. So those are very self-contained in stuff, no big deal. Go forward with it.
But just to wrap up my thought, I think what you're saying is your perspective is anyone should be able to bring in a desktop they want, plug it in, and as long as you have the right personalized environment for them, they can continue to do their business, right?
You can contain the data and keep it safe, and that's what keeps the lawyers up late at night, right? So
How do I get started? What do I do, right? So, as a customer that wants to go down to math, where do I begin?
I mean, I base it on, and this is, I guess, taking a little bit of page out of the early days of server virtualization, but I base it on an exploration of what you have provisioned out to those users today. I mean, what does the desktop look like today? And I'm talking about geeky stuff like how many monitors, what resolution, what USB devices are out there, what printers, shared drives are they connected to, what apps, what OS, what's the page file size, like all of that, I think it counts. And then, maybe even more importantly, I start looking at what's consumed of those provisioned resources, right?
When I look at those assets installed kind of thing, it's like, oh my gosh, I've got 120 apps, I can't move them, it's too much crap now. So the tools that allow you to see what's going on with them day to day, you go from looking at 50 to say, oh, you really only use 5. And it just makes that transition much better, and they also can't complain as much. It gives me more firepower to say, you are a virtualized desktop candidate, and we're going to move you.
I think that when you look at some of the interactions of desktop users with the rest of the environment, the application servers, the network, shared storage, other branch locations from a security standpoint. Oh, by the way, you know how many iterative copies of that corporate signature there are? And I think that DQB comes into play when you talk about desktop strategies and VDI virtualizing. I think there's completely appropriate to talk about data deduplication.
What do you see as the promise of VDI, and what do you see as the biggest threat to security?
So I think the biggest promise is, at least the perceived promise, is lower cost and total cost of ownership in terms of virtualized environments. I think a very positive thing from a security perspective is that, again, it's much easier to control information in one spot versus 10, 20, or 100,000 places. So the ability to manage things at an enterprise level is much simpler in the virtualized environment.
Do you see any threats that VDI presents to security?
Yeah, so in virtual environments, you're using different platforms to store information, so you need to use different tools to protect them. So you need to understand, what's the difference in terms of what I'm doing on the desktop right now, and how can I use the full and better tools to protect the virtualized environment.
We're actually, if you make the assumption we're all going to be on a Microsoft subscription model at the Windows 7 run, I think that's the big thing. We're all going to have a subscription-based OS, as long as it's Microsoft Windows. We're going to have multiple OSs. One, I go do my email and my normal work, and the other one, I got to go do my high critical assets out there. So VDI is a great conduit, and I don't have double OSs because of the way they run the VDA.
I'd like to thank our panelists, Bob, Scott, and T-Rex.
And Chuck, and Karen, and others.
And our active audience participants. Thank you.